Hey everyone, welcome back to How to Train Your Gavin. Today I want to go through a lot of classics that I really would love to read. Now this isn't an original idea, nothing on my channel ever is, but if you want to subscribe anyway, please feel free to do so, the button's just down there. I've been very goal oriented in 2021, especially after the shambles that 2020 was, so one of my goals was to read more classics, and you know what, you're going to be like, oh wow, another one. Yes. So yeah, I do actually have quite a few classics on my shelves that I would really love to get to, and some that I've been really wanting to read for the longest time. But for me, personally, I do struggle with classics. I struggle with the writing sometimes, but usually the font size too is the worst. So I've been waiting for some editions of books that have bigger font sizes so that I could get more into the books, and one of the ones that I've been so excited for has just gotten a brand new release, and the writing is actually readable. So I'm so excited about that. So I'm really just doing an entire video around that. I'm not going to tell you which book it is though. I will tell you when I get to that book. So you're going to have to keep watching to find out. And hit that like button as well if you enjoy. There are a few classics in this video that I feel like are so well known. In fact, probably all of them are, to be fair. Like, I don't think you're going to get any kind of new recommendations from this video, but it's fine. I'm not here to recommend, I'm here to inform. I'm here to inform you that I have not read these ones yet. So you're probably going to roll your eyes at a lot of these titles, but you know what? I don't care. I'll be doing this in alphabetical order by author surname, not by the most excited to the least excited. Let me put my coffee down while I show you what I want to read. So the first one is, oh god, now I feel silly, because you're going to roll your eyes. The first one I'd really love to read is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Yeah, definitely the right one. This time last year, I had not read a single Jane Austen book apart from Persuasion, which I read at university, and cannot remember because I had to squeeze that one into like a few hours, and I just didn't retain any information. This one, however, I can read for pleasure. Who knew? This one follows a turbulent relationship between Elizabeth Bennet, who is the daughter of a country gentleman, and Mr. Darcy, who is a rich aristocratic landowner. They have to overcome their titular sins of Pride and Prejudice in order to get along, in order to fall in love. I've never actually seen an adaptation of this one. I think it's Sense and Sensibility. No, Pride and Prejudice. I have seen a Pride and Prejudice adaptation. I believe it was the 2005 adaptation with Keira Knightley and Colin Firth. And I really enjoyed it, but I haven't watched that in quite some time. So I really want to read the book and see if I can really fall into it. I read Emma recently and absolutely loved Emma. So yeah, I think this one will be really good. Also, saying that though, Northanger so far is my favourite Jane Austen book, I think. I may have to do some kind of ranking video once I've read them all. But this is definitely high on my priority list, as well as the next one, which is Sense and Sensibility. Yeah, by Jane Austen. I have to keep checking. I can't say in the viewfinder what it is. I have to keep checking because once I did pick up a book and was talking about it for 3 minutes straight on a video, realised that I picked up the wrong book and I had to film that entire sequence again. So I'm not doing that again. Anyway, so this one tells the story of the impoverished Dashwood family, and specifically the sisters Eleanor, who is the sense part of the book, and Marianne, who is the sensibility part of the book. And I believe they're personifications of good sense and emotion. And I'm really interested to see what Jane Austen does with that. I have been really enjoying her characterization in a lot of the books that I've read from her so far. So to see it and to find out why people love this one so much would be a really great thing for me to do in 2021, because it has been on my list for quite some time. I also feel like I'm going to start repeating myself a lot in this video. Don't really know anything else about this one. I don't even know if there is a romance in this one. There might be, there might not be, I don't know. But it might just be more focused on a sister relationship, a bit like Frozen. So I'm really excited to read it for that reason. The next one is Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. Confession, I love the musical Oliver, or at least the movie of it. I think it came out in the 60s, and I absolutely love that film so much. It literally changed my life as a kid. I watched it over and over and over again. It was one of my favourite films, so I would absolutely love to read the book that it's based on. I feel like you already know what this is about, but I want to tell you what it's about anyway. This one follows Oliver Twist, and he is an orphan. He is born into a workhouse and then sold into an apprenticeship to an undertaker. He ends up escaping there and going to London, where he meets the Artful Dodger, who is part of this ragtag team of juvenile pickpockets, which is run by Fagin. You know, actually, I had a vlog idea of doing this. I wanted to read a Charles Dickens book for a day, and it was going to be this one, and then do a sort of a parody of Nancy, because I have a long red wig, and I'm really good at singing that song, as long as he needs me. just because I'm so great at the Cockney accent. I mean, not really, I'm joking. I would love to just sit there and do that song. I don't know why it's not even my favourite song from the musical, but every time I want to do a Cockney accent, I start singing that song and then I start doing the Cockney accent. Or Consider Yourself. But I feel like that would be more work. So I really wanted to do it for that reason. But I'm excited to read this one, actually. I think it's going to be really good. I love Victorian literature, and Charles Dickens is one of the greats from that era. I have read Great Expectations and I really enjoyed Great Expectations, but I read that at uni. Again, it wasn't for pleasure, so this one's going to be for fun. This one's going to be for funsies. Next is a Gothic, and I love Gothic literature, especially the classics. Like, if you know me at all, you will know that Anne Radcliffe is one of my favourite classic writers of all time. The Italian is my favourite classic of all time. So the next book that I'd love to read, Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu. Probably said that entirely wrong, but this one was the first ever vampire story to have a female vampire as the main character. In, I believe, Carmilla, she preys on young women. She strikes terror in this very small town. That's all I really know about it. It does say it's the cult classic that inspired Dracula. Now, I know this is not the first vampire story ever, but I mean, if it inspired Dracula, it says it on the book, so it must be true, then I'm going to want to read it, because, like, a little spoiler alert for what's coming up, Dracula is on this list too, because I haven't read it. I would still love to read this. It is quite short, and the writing is quite big, so I feel like this is going to be such a quick and easy book to read, but apparently a lot of people have done queer readings into this, and honestly, I am there for it. If I can read into this and make it queer, I will do that. The one that I really wanted to read, and the reason why I wanted to do this video that I mentioned at the start, so you're finally going to find out what it is. Drumroll please. The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo. I have been wanting to read this one for the longest time, but every single time I, picked the book up at the library or I saw it in a bookshop, I would open it up and the font size and the text would just put me off instantly, but the font in this is just the right size for me. I am so pleased about that. I feel like you will know what this one's about too. The 1996 Disney movie is based off on this, but it does take a lot of liberties with the story, or so I've heard. So I'm very interested to see what's different and what's similar between the two versions. This one still does follow Quasimodo in a 15th century Paris. Quasimodo is the bell ringer at Notre Dame. He's usually locked away. I mean, it might be different in the book. In the movie, anyway, he is locked away usually. I believe he does still fall in love with La Esmeralda in the book too, and it's about that kind of unrequited love and his journey, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't have any songs in. Oh, actually, it might do. I don't know. It's Notre Dame. I've been to Notre Dame twice. It's one of my favourite places. It's just beautiful. The Gothic architecture. I feel like the atmosphere in this is going to be perfect for the story. This one is top of my TBR pile for classics. I'm just going to put it down because I keep saying I can't wait and you're bored. Next up is The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. This one's another Gothic, and I could have made an entire classics video dedicated to just Gothic classics that I wanted to read, but we're not doing that. Again, I really wanted to read this one because I love the musical so much. I mean, not really the movie version of the musical, but the stage version of the musical. Love it. This could be another vlog where I burst into song. I love books that give me that potential, that vlog potential, where I could burst into song and get a copyright strike. Love it. But this one, I think, follows the same kind of storyline. We have a masked singer who lives in the catacombs under the Paris Opera House, and he falls in love with Christine, whose father had passed away, and he tells her that there is a guardian of music, or an angel of music, looking after her, and I think it's something about that. There is a version that was recorded in 2010. I remember it has Sierra Burgess in it as Christine, and I do have that version. I own that version, and I love the version when I first watched it like 10 years ago. So I need to rewatch that before I read this and compare the two, because I love doing that. I love comparing movie adaptations with the original source material. It's fun. Next up is one that I don't actually own, and that is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. And this one I think is more of a children's classic, which I haven't really mentioned on this video just yet. But that's mainly because a lot of the children's classics I've read recently have been highly problematic, haven't really enjoyed them that much either. I've kind of fallen out of love with children's classics. So this is one of the few, there is another one on this list, this is one of the few that I do actually want to read still. So this one follows Anne Shirley, and I believe she is an orphan and she gets sent to live with a couple, but they thought they were going to get a boy so that he could help out on the farm, but Turns out they get a girl. All I know about it really is that Anne has red hair, and I think she's super proud of that, and as she should be. But I hope this one doesn't make me cringe like a lot of the children's classics I've been reading recently have been making me do. We'll see. We'll see. Next one is The Vampyre by John Polidori. Now this one, I believe, is the first vampire novel. I guess I'm just wanting all the vampire novels again. I've been missing vampire fiction for a while now. I need great vampire fiction. Who knows, maybe the very first vampire fiction is the one. This one follows Aubrey, who meets a Lord Ruthven, and I mean, they haven't known each other long, and she decides to travel Europe with him. And you know, I'm not judging. I would do the same thing if Lord Ruthven was hot. I'd totally do it. I don't know why she thinks it's a good idea anyway, but I believe they end up getting separated, or like they disband and then they come back together, and there's just murder that happens. I believe people get their throats ripped out, and there's stories and myths about vampires. That's all I know. It does sound bloody though, and it does sound like it was probably a really great framework for the legend of the vampire that comes after it. So looking forward to seeing the roots of that entire thing. Struggling for words now. All it is just blah blah blah. Next up is Black Beauty by Anna Sewell, and this one is another children's classic. So again, I hope this one isn't problematic like a lot of the ones I've been reading recently have been. But this one, I believe, I think it might be told from the horse's point of view. So Black Beauty is a horse, a really well-trained and really beautiful horse, and they have kind owners to begin with, but I think they get sold to very cruel owners. I think it's about Black Beauty's journey. I don't really know anything else about it, just that it's about a horse. So I do own this absolutely gorgeous puffin cloth bound classic edition, so I thought I'd better read it. We are going through these quickly actually when I've got no clue. Next up is Dracula by Bram Stoker, so the third and I think final? The third and final vampire book on this list. Yeah, Dracula. I feel like everybody knows the story of Dracula. I mean, apart from me. What I believe it's about is that Dracula wants to go from Transylvania to England to spread his terror, or his seed. Wants to raise an army of the undead, and there is a group of people led by Professor Abraham Van Helsing to stop Dracula in his tracks and stop him from spreading this vampire epidemic. It's huge though, it's absolutely huge, so it's probably bottom of my TBR pile from this video at least, but I own it, I want to read it. So I've heard some people have had a tough time reading this, especially at the start. I think maybe it's told in letters to begin with, and honestly I'm not the biggest fan of epistolary novels. I have some bad experiences with those types of novels from uni, so but I think it's gonna get better after that. It's not all told in letters, is it? I hope it isn't. If this is all told in letters, I might give this one a miss. But I'm really excited about the story. I'd love to read Dracula. I'd love to be able to be that person who says, yeah, I've read Dracula, so yeah. Nothing else. Nothing else whatsoever. The next three books I want to talk about together because they are the books by Jules Verne. And, well, I mean, there's 4 novels in this book. One of them is called 5 Weeks in a Balloon, but I've never heard of it, so I don't really want to read it. But I am really excited to read Journey to the Centre of the Earth, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and Around the World in 80 Days. I'm really excited to read those ones. I believe I have seen adaptations of all 3 of them, especially I think 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea I used to enjoy as a kid. Haven't seen it since, and can't remember if it was actually a good film or not. Anyway, talking about Around the World in 80 Days, first then, we have a man called Fig, and he sees this advertisement about India, and there is a railroad that can help you get around the world in 80 days, and he ends up making a bet, or like placing some kind of wager, that he could do that. He could go around the world in 80 days or less. So I think this is like his adventure around the world in 80 days. Unless he fails. I don't know, does he fail or not? Don't tell me, no spoilers. So Journey to the Centre of the Earth is about an Edinburgh professor, and he takes some of his colleagues to this extinct volcano where they end up journeying inside, and they go down to the subterranean world of the Earth's centre. I mean, it sounds dangerous. Did they die? Did they survive? I can't really remember the film, and I'm not trying to use the films as frameworks for these books either, because I know a lot of films take liberties, but I'm trying to remember. This one had Brendan Fraser in it, didn't it? Oh my god, I used to love Brendan Fraser so much. The Mummy though, The Mummy. Sorry, that was a diversion. Diversion to the fact that I know not what I'm talking about. So then 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea follows a marine biologist called Pierre. Whoa, what's that? And he goes on this like expedition to find find this sea monster and I think kill it. But then the sea monster attacks and they all fall overboard and they land at the mercy of Captain Nemo. Which, ooh, I wonder if that's where they got the name for Nemo from Finding Nemo. Interesting. Sounds good. I love me an adventure set on the sea. And yeah, those are the Jules Verne books. I do have one book left that I would love to read, and that is The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole. That one is considered the very first Gothic novel, and I know not what it's about. I know nothing about it. I think it's about the Prince of Otranto, and he's going to marry a princess, and he really wants an heir. However, I don't think he gets an heir. And honestly, I don't want to know what it's about because I searched on Google, what is The Castle of Otranto about? And I was hit with a major spoiler straight away. So don't Google it. Don't Google what Castle of Otranto is about. I don't know myself. But I do know it's kind of inspired a lot of authors like Anne Radcliffe and Matthew Lewis for The Monk, and I really enjoyed The Monk as well. So it would be great to read what is considered the very first Gothic novel. I was supposed to at uni, but I just didn't. Story of my life. So there we have it. Those were the classics that I would really love to read. Kind of like a classics priority TBR. And I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment. Let me know what is on your classics TBR. And if I've read it, I might tell you if they're good or not. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!